Dennis Toohey. I am one of the sports writers and the sports editor here at RMR, respectmyregion.com. First of all, hello. I'm sure some of you have read my work or are familiar with it, but haven't seen me. So here I am, representing the best, hottest up-and-coming cannabis and pop culture website and media company around, and happy to talk to you today about my beloved New York Yankees. First of all, got to get the housekeeping out of the way. Like, comment, subscribe, share, follow us on socials. The Instagram is respectmyregion.365, as is the YouTube. You can check us out on LinkedIn at Respect My Region, and you can check us out on Twitch as well, and Twitter, Facebook, the whole nine. We got all the bases covered. And speaking of bases, my New York Yankees had a pretty disappointing end to their season. After an emotionally arduous season, somehow, someway, the boys from the Bronx clawed their way to the World Series, their first fall classic appearance since 2009 when they beat the Philadelphia Phillies in 6 games. Sadly, no ticker tape this year in 2024 as the Los Angeles Dodgers defeated my beloved Bombers in 5 games. Now, for those of you who are living under a rock, it was a messy end. It wasn't good. It wasn't fun. It wasn't fun times. I'm sure, I know, LA-based company, or at least West Coast-based company, I know a lot of you guys were having a blast at my downfall, at the Yankees' downfall, and my downfall as a fan. I really spiraled after that. But listen, we gotta circle the wagons. We gotta move forward. Stop harping on the past, but it is important to kind of recap for people what happened. Top of the fifth. Game 5, Yankee Stadium. Yankees lead 5-0. Color commentator and Hall of Fame pitcher John Smoltz of Fox Sports was cracking jokes about the Yankees packing their bags for LA. The Dodgers looked lost in their dugout as self-doubt likely began to creep in. Then in typical 2020's New York Yankees fashion, they managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. This happened after the Game 1 collapse, which was almost worse when the Dodgers came back from down 3-2 in the bottom of the 10th inning. After superstar Freddie Freeman hit the second walk-off grand slam in World Series history, Nelson Cruz of the Texas Rangers hit one in Game 2 of the 2011 World Series. Gosh, I can't believe that was that long ago. The Game 1 collapse led to fans and media questioning the managerial prowess of longtime New York Yankees skipper Aaron Boone, who controversially decided to bring in former All-Star left-handed starter, turned long reliever Nestor Cortez Jr., who hadn't pitched in over 30 days, over the veteran lefty Tim Hill, who had been red hot down the stretch of the regular season and into the playoffs. So right away, Yankees trailed the series 1-0. Games 2 and 3 were routs. Dodgers beat the brakes off the Yankees. Game 4, there was late life for the Yankees, but it didn't go anywhere. Then Game 5 happens, and they're pushing all the right buttons. Stan hits a homer. Judge hits a homer. I mean, it's all, every single box that had to be checked was getting checked. This was the perfect storm for the Yankees. This is what they needed. And if they just held on, literally and figuratively, they would have been going back to LA down 3-2 in the series, but not out. And instead, we know what happens. Aaron Judge in center field should have ended the inning, drops the ball. Then there's the error at shortstop from Anthony Volpe to Jazz Chisholm at third, which honestly, I have to kind of give a pass to Volpe on. The error wasn't really in throwing to third. He should have tried to throw to first. Going to third there might have been his only option. But, I mean, it was Mookie Betts, right? Was running the first at the time? Or Gavin Lux? It wasn't... And it wouldn't have been like a gimme at first, and third was closer. Like, I kind of understand the thinking, and he had to nutmeg him. For all you basketball fans, he had to go in between the legs to Jazz Chisholm, and it was just a tough play. So that I'm a little, I have to kind of give him some slack on there. You don't have a traditional third baseman in Jazz Chisholm Jr. playing there. Fine. The one that really hurt, the backbreaker, was Anthony Rizzo and Garrett Cole. Whatever happened there at first base, the third error of the inning. And then, of course, the Dodgers, they rally back. And then the Yankees were leading 6-5. They couldn't hold on to that. And yeah, a comedy of errors, literally. So that's how we get here. Sad, lonely, depressed, sitting in the den, talking to all you, the RMR faithful, about my New York Yankees. Oh, well. Ho hum. We move on. I think a lot of times New York fans in particular harp on the past, for better or worse, harp on the past. And I think it's time to be realistic and move forward. So let's move forward. What's next? What's next? All right. Well, the Yankees, they're like most teams, they're going to have a lot of free agents coming off the books this year. And it's quite a bit. Varying degrees of skill and talent and significance to the roster. But here are all of their free agents: Tim Hill, the left-handed reliever; right-handed reliever Clay Holmes; right-handed reliever Tommy Canley; right-handed reliever Jonathan Loizaga, who barely pitched this season, if at all, due to injury; first baseman Anthony Rizzo, 2016 World Series winner, and veteran. I mean, he's been around the block, competitive at-bats. We'll talk about him a little further shortly. Juan Soto, the outfielder; second baseman Gleyber Torres; right-handed reliever Lou Trevino; and outfielder Alex Verdugo are your departing New York Yankees. Now, as far as who I could see them bringing back, right away, I think you need to bring back Tim Hill. I don't think we have to spend too much time on that. You could always use a left-handed long reliever out of your bullpen. That's always going to be in demand. And I think that he fits them very well. He pitched phenomenal in the postseason. He pitched phenomenal down the stretch of the postseason. And the Yankees desperately need to gather their bullpen up. It's bizarre. This was probably one of the worst Yankees bullpens since dating back to the 1970s. And I know I'm born in 2000, but I love history. I love sports. Sue me. You know, this is just how I operate. And you think of all the great Yankees closers we've had over the years, dating back, Sparky Anderson, Goose Gossage, Dave Righetti in the 80s, John Righetti in the 90s. Not John Righetti, John Wetland, excuse me, in the 90s. And then, of course, Mariano Rivera carries the torch throughout the 21st century. And then since then, it's kind of been a little dicey, but still better than most teams. You'll take no run DMC from 2014 to 2015, Dellin Betances, Andrew Miller, Aroldis Chapman. And you'll take that. You'll take that. Then 2016, the Yankees try to kind of blow it up. They get rid of Andrew Miller. He goes to the now Cleveland Guardians. And you move Aroldis Chapman to the Cubs. Funny enough, they wind up facing each other in the World Series that year. And you get those prospects you got for them, namely Gleyber Torres, who we'll get to in a bit. But this was bizarre. We never seem to see bad New York Yankees bullpens. It's something that fans take for granted a lot. It's something that I think media takes for granted a lot. And it's something that's so important. Towards the end of every single season, every single trade deadline, everything, it's always relievers, you know, that's always what's in demand. And the Yankees usually have good magic at finding those kinds of players. And this year, they couldn't. And even when they did in Michael Tonkin, they got rid of him for nothing and cut him shortly before the playoffs started, which I thought was a horrible idea then, even more so now, as the Yankees wound up having a three-man bullpen of Tommy Canley, Luke Weaver, and Tim Hill. Everybody else was unreliable. So I think Tim Hill's coming back. I think all the other relievers you could talk me in or out of. I think Clay Holmes definitely not. But again, it's they are kind of a dime a dozen. There's always going to be a ton of relievers out there. So maybe don't harp on it too much. But I think Tim Hill you got to bring back just to have another lefty arm out of the pen. Now, on to the position players because I'm not going to kid myself. I love talking baseball, but I know people aren't going to sit here and listen to me quibble about relievers. Should they or should they not stay? I think we can save. I think it can save all of us some time. The New York Yankees starting right fielder Juan Soto proved to be a very crucial asset to the Yankees this past season. The left-handed hitting 26-year-old Dominican phenom will likely be the second runner-up in the American League MVP race, behind fellow Yankees outfielder Aaron Judge and Royals shortstop Bobby Witt Jr. In his lone season in New York, he was phenomenal, with a baseball reference WAR of 7.9, a batting average of 288, 41 home runs, 166 hits, and an OPS plus of 178. For those of you who are unfamiliar, that means he is 78 points above average in OPS plus. Yet again, Soto has had more walks than strikeouts with 129 base on balls to 119 punch outs, along with playing good enough defense to make him a finalist in American League right field Gold Glove voting. I'll be the first one to say it. I think that's a lot of the short porch and right doing the work for him, because if it's hit over his head, it's gone. I never saw him as a Gold Glove caliber right fielder, quite frankly. He had a couple of plays that I could think of offhand, but not enough for me to compare him to some of the other, quote unquote elite defensemen in the league. And I'm just going to be honest with you. I thought it was a little fraudulent. Fine, whatever. We move on. He also had a terrific postseason. And when you're on the New York Yankees or on any New York sports team, if you make it to the playoffs, that's all that matters. And that's all that will matter. Don't believe me? Go ask Julius Randle. Very good regular seasons for the Knicks. They couldn't wait to get rid of him. In the postseason, Juan Soto had 4 home runs, 9 RBIs, and a walk to strikeout ratio of 14-9 in 14 games played. The 4-time All-Star is expected to sign for record money. Some mock signings have him at 12 to 15 years for $700+ million. Others have him 10 for $600. Regardless, it's going to be Scrooge McDuck money, and regardless, the Yankees have to re-sign him. Re-signing Soto is pivotal to the success of the Yankees, already having won a World Series with Washington in 2019. Childish Bambino is a natural-born winner and one of the best floor raisers in the game. It's extremely difficult to be a bad team when you have a talented player of that caliber getting 4 at-bats a game for you at the top of the lineup. $500, $600, $700 million. Honestly, guys, I don't care. Get him back in Yankees pinstripes next season. Juan Soto is not a want for the Yankees. He is a necessity for the New York Yankees going into the 2025 season. I know the Mets are in on him. We keep hearing the Mets are in on him. The Dodgers are in on him. The Tampa Bay Rays were in on him. The San Francisco Giants were in on him. The Boston Red Sox, the Yankees, and the Cubs are the 7 teams that are rumored to have contacted him this offseason. I don't see the Rays as being a legitimate contender. I don't see the Cubs being a legitimate contender. The Red Sox are trying to supposedly sell the team or geared towards selling the team. So having that kind of gaudy contract would be counterintuitive. Typically, when teams sell, they want to cut payroll. The Dodgers, they're in on everybody every year. If I'm him, I don't know why I'd want to go to the Dodgers. I want to beat that team. I don't want to reap their benefits. But who knows? The Mets, I think it's counterintuitive for the Mets to sign him too. They're going to need to get an all-new pitching staff. They are in a really bad spot in terms of free agents. Basically, their entire team are free agents. First baseman Pete Alonso, outfielder. Harrison Bader. Shintaro Fujinami out of the bullpen. Jose Iglesias, utility infielder. Sean Manaea, who was their best pitcher this year. JD Martinez, their DH. Reliever Phil Maton. Reliever Adam Ottavino. Long reliever and starter Jose Quintana. Reliever Brooks Raley. Starter Luis Severino. Drew Smith, one of their starters. Ryan Stanek, one of their relievers. And Jesse Winker, their outfielder. So they already signed Dylan Covey, who I'm pretty sure is a reliever. Fine. But they have so many players. They have so many holes, and almost all of them are on the pitching side of things, that I think they're probably going to be trying to get back Manaea and bring in Corbin Burns, if I had to take a guess. Jack Flaherty, I'm sure they'll be in on, as are the other kind of premier starting pitchers that we're going to see being free agents. Maybe Nathan Eovaldi for a cheap, quick deal. Who knows? Blake Snell opted out of his contract. He's a free agent. Maybe they're in on him. Another left-handed starting for them. I don't know. I think this is going to sound wild to Mets fans. They still got to get Pete Alonso, who I'll get to more in a bit. They have a lot that they got to do, the Mets. And I think Juan Soto kind of just handicaps them from doing that. I think if a team signs Juan Soto for that amount of money, even if it's deferred, that's going to be a real. That's probably going to handcuff you for the rest of your offseason, I'd imagine. And the reason why I say that is because with the amount of endorsements that Shohei Ohtani was getting, and he was already 30, he already had a decent paycheck from working in MLB. He didn't need the money as much as Juan Soto, who just turned 26, is probably going to want that money now at his age. So I think you're, even if deferred, I don't think it's going to be an Ohtani kind of deferral of $10 million for 10 years of $10 million a year, and then 400 for another 10 after when he's retired. I don't think it's going to be something that drastic in terms of deferred payments. So it's going to be a big contract, and I think the other teams, the Yankees are, and this could be me coping, I don't know. I think the Yankees are in a pretty good spot as they don't have big money coming off their books. Honestly, all the other players that they have coming off the books from a position player standpoint, they're all kind of redundant. And I'll get to that in a bit. Gleyber Torres, he's 27, second baseman. They've tried him at short. That's just not good for anybody. Few Yankees have swung Yankees fans' opinions as much as New York's longtime second baseman. I remember when he got called up. I remember when he got traded for at that 2016 deadline for Aroldis Chapman. And since then, since he came up in 2018, if you're not a New Yorker or a New York sports fan, I don't think you realize or could realize just how bizarre the Gleyber Torres timeline in New York has been. I can't think of this with anybody. I'm sure, again, I know we have a lot of LA viewers and fans out there. I guess it's kind of a D'Angelo Russell Laker thing. Picture if D'Angelo Russell came up with the Lakers and played his whole career on the Lakers up until now. And he's as, Jekyll and Hyde statistically as he is. That's kind of how it is with Gleyber Torres. For a week, he's genuinely the best second baseman in the league. Up there with Altuve. Up there with not Teoscar Hernandez. I'm sorry, Marcus Semien. I don't know why I always get them confused. Up there with those kinds of cats. And then there's other times where he looks like he shouldn't even play. And he doesn't. And he gets benched by Aaron Boone. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. And I think a good way of explaining it was his postseason stats. In the postseason, Gleyber looked really good against the Cleveland Guardians. He carried us in that series, or was one of the players that carried us, along with obviously Giancarlo Stanton and our guy Juan Soto. But I mean, it's bizarre. The point where, for his sake and for the Yankees' sake, just move on. Excuse me. Just move on. I don't think it's good for anybody if he just stays here upset, grumbling. He doesn't hustle out of the box. He, little things here and there that kind of irk fans. He didn't want to try to move over to third base for Jazz Chisholm. He didn't want to do certain things. Just move on. At the trade deadline, a lot of teams were calling about Gleyber Torres, excuse me. And they decided to move on with him. And he was playing out of his mind up until the trade deadline. And then when the Yankees said, we're going to keep you, it's like he just stopped. He just stopped caring. It's frustrating. He's a frustrating player to watch at times. And then at other times, he's fantastic. One thing I always feel like is constant with him, in a big moment, he'll never come through. I feel like if 7th, 8th, 9th inning, if he's up to bat, I feel like it's always going to be a ground ball to second every single time. And I don't know, as a Yankees fan, I don't know if I can really sit through that. And the other thing is, he's redundant. Like I said earlier, and the stats finally loaded. He hit 364 against the Guardians in the 2024 ALCS, then 143 against the Dodgers. Back to my original point. He's just redundant. The Yankees have DJ LeMahieu, who's washed up but under contract, and he's been so bad he isn't movable unless you attach a high caliber prospect with him. However, he can still play Gold Glove caliber defense at 3 different positions. New York acquired Jazz Chisholm Jr. from Miami in July, who's a true second baseman who was forced to masquerade as a third baseman this year, having never played it at any level in the past, and actually did well at third. Switch hitter Oswaldo Cabrera can play second base and has been used as a defensive replacement for Gleyber Torres, including in this year's playoffs in Game 1. Perhaps the most interesting Gleyber replacement candidate is Oswald Peraza, 24 years old. Peraza has been one of New York's higher-ranked prospects over the last couple of years, but has struggled offensively at the big league level. Granted, he has only played in 74 games. I just think it's time to move on from Torres. He hit 257, had 151 hits, 15 homers, 63 RBIs, and of course, an OPS plus of 101, slightly above average. He is leading free agent second baseman and wins above replacement. Again, I'm not really sure how, but he is. I just think the Yankees, we have the moves internally. I just move on without him at this point. He needs to change the scenery. Alex Verdugo, age 28, outfielder, acquired in a rare Yankees-Red Sox trade in the 2023 offseason, and he was like a legitimate player for the Red Sox. I can't really think of this ever happening again. I'm sure it's happened a bunch of times. Growing up, I never really saw it. A Yankee-Red Sox trade, whatever, I digress. Again, another player who kind of streaky and Jekyll and Hyde. His 2024 stats, 13 homers, 61 RBIs, 49 walks to 93 strikeouts, a 233 batting average, and an OPS plus of 83. Again, below average in most categories. And career lows are not far off from career lows in most categories as well, aside from the 13 home runs, tied for a career high. I don't see a legitimate path to Verdugo coming back. The Yankees are clearly bringing 21-year-old switch-hitting center fielder Jason Dominguez up to the main roster next year. Judge is going to be playing the outfield again, so there's 2 spots. And the Yankees are actively pursuing Juan Soto. And when the music stops, I doubt Verdugo gets a chair in the Bronx. If the Yankees do not sign Juan Soto, maybe they bring him back him being Verdugo, obviously. But they could also slide Jazz Chisholm Jr. into one of those outfield spots, or Oswaldo Cabrera, who, when he played, was pretty good this season offensively, a struggle of his in the past. There are other free agent outfielders that are better players than Verdugo as well, which I will get to later down the line when I talk about non-New York Yankees I could see coming in. Perhaps if Verdugo likes New York enough and the feeling is mutual, maybe he comes back as a bench piece. But honestly, he has future Colorado Rocky or Miami Marlin written all over him. No fault of his own. Sometimes there's just not enough room for you. There's just not. And, that's okay. It's fine. I nothing personal. He seemed to do well here. The media never seemed to really razzle him too much. Never really seemed to phase him. Okay, fine. I think he's a good player overall, and I think whoever he goes to should be happy with him. I just don't think it's realistic to expect him to be back. And then the last position player, kind of glossed over earlier, Anthony Rizzo, age 35, first baseman, a former Platinum Glove winner. Sadly, his defense will probably be all that we remember as a New York Yankee after that costly error in Game 5. Anthony Rizzo, usually a reliable first baseman. And then this postseason, he was horrible. He was playing with two broken fingers. I don't know if that had something to do with it or not, but he was making quite a few errors that were very uncharacteristic of him. I think he's a likely returning candidate, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be mad at me for saying that, but I think it's realistic. I wouldn't be surprised if they brought him back. Every player, coach, and front office member talk about the difference he makes on team culture and values his opinion in a pseudo player coach role. It is also well known Rizzo has become close with the Yankees' ace Garrett Cole and superstar outfielder Aaron Judge. The Yankees likely declined his option to try and bring him back on a cheaper deal. They declined his $20 million option. Personally, I think this crop of free agent first baseman is shallow. 30-year-old power slugging righty Pete Alonso of the Mets is redundant, given the Yankees have a similar archetype with Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge. This reason could also be given for not signing 34-year-old veteran Christian Walker of the Arizona Diamondbacks. I believe the cheapest and most likely option is the Yankees bringing back Rizzo on a cheap one-year deal for less than $10 million. I know a lot of fans don't like Anthony Rizzo. He gives good at-bats. He's a good hand at first base. He's good in the locker room. He's good in the clubhouse. A good person to have on your team. When things are going wrong, you can see players go over to him. A steadying presence. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a future manager at some point for a team. I just don't see how it's not going to happen. Like I mentioned with Gleyber Torres, there is a slight redundancy there. You can move, again, DJ LeMahieu to first. He's played it before and played it well. Oswaldo Cabrera played it well. Funny enough, John Birdie, who played first base once his entire life, actually played really good first base in the playoffs this year. It's insane to try somebody at a position they've never played in the playoffs, but he did excellent. I get all that, but to have that left-handed hitting first baseman and a lineup that's going to be needing lefties with three of them leaving, Rizzo, Soto, Verdugo, at Yankee Stadium, that 314-foot short porch. I mean, we all know it. I think it's a necessity. I do. Maybe Paul Goldschmidt, depending on what the money's looking like, but he is not aging like wine at all. He is aging as poorly as he could. And, you know, I don't know. Again, he's another righty, so you don't even have that piece. And I'm being a little too harsh. He wasn't as bad as I thought he was. 245 this year, a 98 OPS plus. He's not the worst, but you know, Certainly not what he was 2 years ago when he MVP votes. When he won MVP. I forgot about that. He actually won the darn thing in 22. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see anybody other than Rizzo playing first for the Yankees on opening day. As far as players the Yankees should get that aren't in their system, these are just free agents, trades. We could always talk trades. Maybe that's a later piece. I don't want to burn my brain or yours too much, overwhelm you. Ha-Seong Kim, age 29, infielder of the San Diego Padres, is probably one of the most underrated players in the league. Kim plays second base, third base, and shortstop, all with elite defensive prowess. Assuming the Yankees decide to move on from Torres, Kim could play third and move Jazz to second, or Kim can play second. Maybe the Yankees want to try Volpe somewhere else. Kim could play Gold Glove caliber defense at short. The only limitation on this defensive super weapon is his average offensive output. Kim is coming off a down year offensively with a batting average of 233, an OPS plus of 96, and just 30 total extra base hits. However, in 121 games, he did manage to steal 22 stolen bases. The Yankees really lack presence on the base paths, save for Jazz and Anthony Volpe. I like Ha-Seong Kim. He's really good. He's kind of your favorite player's favorite player type of guy that the media kind of glosses over him a lot. And it's easy to forget about him in the shuffle of the San Diego Padres. But he's just so good defensively. He's so good. And if he's your 9-hole hitter, you're okay with it. He's shown at times to carry the Padres offensively. That's a tough team to do that for because they do have a lot of firepower. And even if it's for a week or 2 weeks in a row where you're the best on a team like that, that does tell me something that, all right, it's at least worth thinking over for that kind of upside, knowing that at worst, he'll be one of your best defensive players you're going to have on your roster, or likely in his case, the best defensive player on your roster. I'm all right with it. I like it. I'm in on it. I think he's going to be cheaper than Gleyber Torres because the offensive ceiling is lower, but I think he's just as effective. Anthony Santander, 30-year-old right fielder from the Baltimore Orioles. This is another move the Yankees may make if things don't pan out with Juan Soto. Veteran switch hitter Anthony Santander has been one of the better hitters in baseball over the past 5 seasons. And again, one of the more underrated players in the league and a guy that seems to always get lost in the shuffle. I like him. I think he's good. He's coming off his only All-Star season and will likely get votes for All-MLB. After hitting 44 homers, he drove in 102 runs and had an OPS plus of 134. There isn't much to discredit his offensive ability aside from his 235 batting average, which is the second lowest of his career. Defensively, Santander is at or slightly above average based on most metrics. I wouldn't put him at the top of my offseason wish list, but he could be more than just serviceable if the Yankees are unable to bring back Soto. Again, like I mentioned with Verdugo, he is a bit of a redundancy if you're trying to maximize every single move. But I don't know, maybe try him at first. He's played first a few times for the Orioles, but nothing too substantial. Maybe try to give him more minutes there if you don't bring back Rizzo. Maybe you bring back Soto and you bring in Santander. Who knows? A solid hitting switch hitter. You could always use one of those on your roster. And that just kind of, again, diversifies your lineup a bit. And the Yankees, after losing 3 crucial left-handed hitters to free agency, Verdugo, Rizzo, Soto, I mean, what are you going to do? Are we going to go back to how it was in 2023 and 22 and 21 when we had no lefties and it was so easy to pitch against the Yankees and somehow, some way, we still couldn't hit left-handed pitching? I don't know. But I could see him being a very valuable asset. I could. This is a fun one. A player who's not in Major League Baseball, Roki Sasaki, 23-year-old starting pitcher out of the Nippon Professional Baseball League. A team could always use starting pitching, and despite never pitching in the bigs, 23-year-old Roki Sasaki has been on the radar for teams since his 2023 World Baseball Classic run. Get it right, Dennis. You were there. You were in Miami. You saw him pitch live in front of you. 2023, Sasaki averaged 100.5 miles per hour on his fastball at the WBC and peaked at 101.9 miles per hour. Obviously, this kind of production at just 21 years old raised eyebrows. Since then, he has had an ERA of 1.78 in the 2023 NPB season and an ERA of 2.35 last year. The regression and strong reliance on the fastball, which typically plays differently in the States, could be something to watch out for, but for a player with his upside at this age, it's tremendous. Most of the starting pitchers in free agency are either in their early 30s or in their mid to late 30s. Very few guys are even in their late 20s in this pitching staff, this pitching crop. It's just, I don't know how much you're going to pay for him. If it comes down between Sasaki or Soto, I'm picking Soto in a heartbeat. I doubt we get both, but I also doubt that another team gets both. So it would make me at least consider it a little longer. And I don't know. I think it's worth kicking the tires. Just once again, based on the upside, and you can have him for a long time. To me, it just makes sense. And, well, let's be honest here. The Japanese hitters, typically, they don't pan out well. They don't. Ichiro, Otani, obviously, Matsui, Hideki Matsui. Kaz Matsui was a baller in 2007 for the Rockies year or two there. Second Rocky reference. Wow. That's kind of it. Shogo Akiyama was a bust. Seiya Suzuki, I don't know. Jury is still out. I think he's just kind of average or above average. That's kind of it. A lot of busts. A lot of busts. G-Man Choi's had moments. Or even then, I think he might be Korean. Honestly, most Asian hitters in general that go to the bigs have a hard time adjusting. But the pitchers really, there's not too many busts there. Cheigawa, kind of the only one I could think of offhand. Shintaro Fujinami has had a rough time adapting to the majors. He's a free agent right now, leaving the Mets. He's also a reliever whose career started out being a human surrender flag for the Oakland A's. And I think that just shattered his confidence. When he did well, they would take him out right away. When he struggled, they would just leave him in and let him go down to ship and just used him as a human forfeit when they were trying to tank. And I think that killed his career. But again, overall, the pedigree, the scouts, they get it right. If they're saying this kid is can't miss, this kid is probably can't miss. So there you kind of have it. I'll throw in one that wasn't in my article on respectmyregion.com. You can check it out under the sports tab. And you can also, through there, click my other work and the work of my coworkers and colleagues. Max Kepler. I like Max Kepler for the Yankees if we don't bring back Juan Soto. He could play good outfield. Use him as a right-handed pitching specialist. He's a lefty. Good defenseman. Can play first. Polish-born. I'm Polish-American. I have a little kindred spirit. Why not? He grew up. He's a German national. So maybe you could appeal to... Oh, he was actually born in Berlin. I remember reading... I think it's his parents are from Poland. Yeah. He... a little bit below average this year. At 368 at-bats, 93 hits, 8 home runs, 253 batting average, 42 RBIs, a stolen base, a 91 OPS plus. Cheap, Dependable. He's 31 already. Oh my gosh. Seems like yesterday he got called up. Cheap, dependable, streaky. Strikeouts are a bit of a problem with him. He had 80 strikeouts to 22 walks in 105 games. He's always typically a high strikeout guy. Actually, not as bad as I thought. Not as bad as I thought. Now that I'm looking back at it, he's never had a season of above. He's only had 2 seasons at or above 100 strikeouts, which nowadays really isn't that much. Career 237 hitter. Batting average is never really there. Last year, really high OPS plus 120. Surprised by 24 home runs, 66 RBIs. Had a nice little year for himself for the Twins. Yeah, he's a guy that every other year, maybe you have something in him, maybe you don't. I think it's worth taking him on because he's cheap. I don't think he's going to be a huge acquisition for someone. I think he's going to be a minor needle mover, but a needle mover nonetheless. And I think it's just worth taking a risk. Why not? I'm going through some of the other free agents. Position player wise, you don't really need too much unless you make trades and whatnot and you want to bring somebody in. But yeah, I don't know. A lot of it's relievers like we normally see. Maybe Adam Duvall from the Braves. I don't hate it. I don't hate that at all. He's okay. He's good. Yeah. I'm looking, trying to see if there's any other name that I overlooked in the original article. But sadly, I don't think there really is any. It's Robbie Grossman. He's okay. Adam Frazier. He's pretty good. Frazier, second base outfield. Robbie Grossman, outfield. But again, the Yankees, you could just slide them over. It all predicates on where Juan Soto signs. If he really holds out free agency, I don't like that for the Yankees. Either sign him early or let him go early, so you know what you're doing the rest of the way. But don't be waiting until January, February to see where he goes, because that's where you're going to run into some problems. Anyway, that does it for my Yankees offseason guide. Some of the players I want them to get, some of the departing players, my opinions. Again, you could read it in more detail on respectmyregion.com. Yeah, this was fun. Now, every Monday morning, 8:30 Eastern, we are going to be doing the RMR Sports Report, debuting that. Sometimes it'll be just me. Sometimes it'll be me and a guest. Many of them maybe you know from other RMR content. Maybe some new faces. Regardless, R&R Sports Report every Monday morning at 8:30 a.m. I know this is not Monday. Oh, this is Monday. I keep forgetting. Long day. I worked my other job before this. Regardless, it's going to usually be Monday mornings, not Monday evenings. And yeah, let me know what you think. Again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Follow us on socials at Respect My Region or respectmyregion.365. Have fun. It was a pleasure talking to you. And now you have a face and a voice to some of the articles maybe you've written. Maybe you didn't like some of them. I don't know. Leave me a comment.